Hello, welcome back. Now I'm going to look at punctuating dialogue when you use a new speaker on a new line. Now in the last video we looked at the basics of how you use speech marks when you're writing dialogue. On this video I'm going to explain what you need to do when you've got several people speaking. What I often see when people are writing is they just write. Alfie said to the teacher, "Why can't you make the lessons more interesting?" The teacher replied, "Well, it's not my fault if you're not going to listen to me carefully and get a little bit more excitement from this." And they just keep writing it from one line to the next. And what they're not realizing is that you need to, every time a new person starts speaking, you need to start a new line. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So here we go. All right. This really is boring. Let's have someone else apart from Alfie. Let's have Derek. There we go. So this really is boring, said Derek. Now, just to remind you, I've got a capital letter at the beginning of my speech. I've got speech marks. For some reason, I've done double inverted commas. Doesn't really matter. You can do single or double. I usually do single. So the speech is in the inverted commas. I've got a capital letter at the beginning, and I've got my punctuation inside the speech marks, separating what's being said from the said Derek bit. Now, if somebody else is going to speak, you must start a new line. I can't just start writing here. So Derek is sitting next to Florence, and she's not particularly interested in this grammar lesson either. This really is boring, said Derek. I agree. Moaned Florence. Now, unfortunately, the teacher has heard these two chatting at the back of the class, so he comes up, new speaker, new line. What are you two muttering about? What are you two muttering about? Asked Mr. H. Now notice I've got my piece of punctuation here. This time I have used a question mark. Nothing, grunted Derek. That looks like it says gunted, but it does mean say grunted. Now, I think you've got the idea here. New line, new speaker. If you're going to add any narrative, and by narrative I mean description, you can carry that on. So if I'm going to write something about how Derek is sitting, now I can carry it on. I'm going to write the narrative in green just to make it a little bit different. Nothing, grunted Derek. And let me change that to a comma. And I'll add on to that, nothing, grunted Derek, who was staring out of the window. And then the teacher's going to speak again, so a new line. Don't lie to me, boy. It's not a very polite teacher, is it? Shouted Mr. H, and I'm going to carry on with some narrative here. Shouted Mr. H, who was beginning to go red. Now, Florence is going to come back in this, but before Florence says anything, I'm going to have a bit of description about her. Now, even though she's not speaking yet, because I'm going from Mr. Hone who's talking, and I'm now going to talk be talking about Florence, I again need to start a new line. I'll put it in green here because it's not actually speak. Florence was becoming worried. She didn't want Derek to get in trouble. Now, because this is writing about Florence, I can just continue here with my speech. On the same line here. Please, Dell, she whispered. Notice this comma here. She's going to carry on speaking. Please, Dell, she whispered. Don't cause any trouble. Full stop here. And some more description. She nudged him in the ribs. So there you go. The basics of this is every time you have somebody else speaking, you need to start a new line. So I've got Derek here, Florence, Mr. Hone, Derek, back to Mr. Hone, Florence again, even though it's description, it has a new line, and she can carry on speaking here because we've already been talking about her. And you can carry on a dialogue like this for as long as you want. And I'm sure that yours will be more neatly written than mine, more interesting, and that you won't talk about anybody gunting, but they will in fact be grunting. All the best, guys.